Outlander is returning with another amazing season soon. However, we still have quite a while to wait before we get to see the Highlanders again. Fans are desperate, and this long wait is making them think about several things that might happen in this upcoming series. One of the most important questions: will we get answers about Jamie's ghost this season? First up, Gabaldon confirmed it was Jamie's ghost. Both in the novel and the series, Claire's husband Frank Randall sees Jamie's ghost for the first time. Talking about the novel, when Frank returns to his wife Claire, he's all pale and disturbed. That's when Claire asks him whether he'd seen a ghost, which he says he probably has. This trivia began after Frank saw a ghost which was later confirmed to be Jamie by Gabaldon, watching over Claire through the window of her room. In case you need a refresher, the innkeeper at the bed and breakfast where Frank and Claire were staying had told them that their visit coincides with the Samhain festival. There's an eerie thing about this festival, as it's believed that the barrier between the spiritual and physical world is dissolved during this time of year. When asked about this, Gabaldon quickly confirmed the fan theories about that ghost being Jamie. Diana Gabaldon also ensured that no one thought Jamie had traveled back in time. In one of her tweets, she said, "He's a ghost. Ghosts don't need no stinking stones." Okay, we know that was Jamie, but why was he there, and how did he get there? Also, why was it necessary to show us that scene? And why haven't we seen that ghost ever since? So, will this mystery be solved in Season 7? Most probably not. We'll have to recall one of Gabaldon's Q&A sessions with fans to explain this to you, because we understand you must have been disappointed. We've all been dying to know all the answers related to Jamie's ghost. However, in 2019, Gabaldon had confirmed to a fan that the mystery of the Outlander ghost would be solved in her last book, meaning the last book from the Outlander series. The problem is that Season 7 will be based on the 7th book from the series, which isn't the last one. The author has already completed the 9th book titled Go Tell the Bees That I'm Gone, but we're sure that even this book doesn't have any revelations about Jamie's ghost. So this means the part where the ghost mystery has to be resolved is still in the works. You must be wondering why we're so sure that the book series will have 10 books. Well, once again, travel back in time with us. In 2019, a fan had asked Gabaldon whether this mystery would be solved in Book 9. Also, will there be 2 parts of Book 9 or just Book 9 and Book 10? Gabaldon replied that there would be Book 9 and Book 10, while the ghost would be the last thing in the last book. We were worried that we'd already become grandparents by the time the last book arrived. But right at that moment, we came across some fan theories and other information that could help us guess the future. And now, the ghost we saw was Jamie, but at the age of 25. In 2014, while Gabaldon was participating in an Outlander podcast, the author was asked about the Outlander ghost. And to everyone's surprise, she was ready to answer a few questions. Gabaldon revealed that Sam Heughan had asked her about this ghost, but she hadn't thought about it at the time. However, she did tell him that the ghost was about 25 years old. Now, this makes things much more confusing, because our Jamie guy is way older than 25. In fact, Jamie and Claire were in their 50s during the 6th season, and ghosts only appear once one has died, mostly. So this is messed up, right? Well, some fan theories have a bit of an explanation for this. Maybe Jamie briefly died during the Battle of Culloden. This is one of the most famous fan theories, and it actually makes sense. According to this theory, Jamie might have died for a moment while he was fighting in the bloody Battle of Culloden. You must remember that during this battle, Jamie had barely survived. This makes sense because when the series began, Jamie was 23 and he spent about 3 years with Claire before she went back to the future. We can also guess that the Highlander was about 25 or 26 years old during the battle. So this theory suggests that this guy died. His soul went on to see Claire, who was in the future at the time, and came back. This is how his love for Claire helped him survive. But then again, it makes sense and doesn't make sense at the same time. We understand that it's possible for him to die for a while, but how could his soul travel across the borders of time? Also, why did Gabaldon call it his ghost instead of his soul? Well, just like any other fan theory, this one also has a few shortcomings. And this theory is true and only requires a bit of an explanation, and everything will start making sense. Or maybe the ghost is actually his spirit traveling while he's asleep. We read this one on Reddit, and it also made sense and can actually tie all the stranded ends of the string. According to this fan theory, whenever Jamie is asleep, his soul leaves his body, becomes a ghost, and visits the future to see Claire. This means he can see the future, and the scene where Frank saw Jamie looking at Claire through the window was actually a projection of Jamie's soul into the future. Here's how we can justify this theory. We know that Jamie did have something to do with the knowledge of the future. He can't travel to the future, but he had kind of a vision of it. For example, when he met Brianna, he already knew that she had a birthmark on her neck. Why? Because he saw it in a dream. Jamie's ghost might have waited for Claire for over 200 years. A fan on Facebook had a totally different theory about Jamie appearing as a ghost. However, this one is a bit less convincing convincing. According to this fan, Jamie waited for Claire for about 200 years before he said that he would wait for her even after he died. The fan further explaining the theory said that the reason why Frank was able to see Jamie was that the veil was thin because of Samhain. While giving this theory, the fan also asked a question, which was about those unusual forget-me-nots. Did he plant all those plants during the 20 years that he had to spend without Claire in order to lead her back to Craig na Dun? Maybe that was the reason why she was drawn back to the plants and the stones the next day. After all, Jamie did know about her immense interest in botany. This theory does make sense. However, it's not convincing because if Jamie was waiting for Claire after his death, then his ghost should have looked older and not 25 years old. Or maybe it was Jamie's dying wish to see the love of his life. There are so many fan theories that we could make a whole series of videos just explaining these theories. Anyways, it has the same problem as the last one, and that's Jamie's age factor. A fan on Reddit believes that Jamie might have had a dying wish to see Claire, but not on some ordinary day, but on a day when the magic hadn't touched her and she was young. Well, it's possible that this wish was the reason why he himself was also young in the scene and was dressed in his prime Scottish apparel. The interesting thing that might make it look like it was fate is that Claire was visiting the very place the veil would be thin during Samhain. Or was it a warning to Frank? Lastly, we have this quite a prosaic fan theory. What if it was just a warning to Frank? Apparently, the fan theory believes that Frank saw the future for a moment, and what he saw that night was actually a glimpse of the future that his wife Claire would have had without him. This fan theory suggests that the appearance of Jamie's ghost wasn't about Jamie or Claire. Instead, it was about Frank, who was meant to witness the reality of the future or past. It's like the universe is hellbent on preparing this guy for what's coming next. Another fan believes that Jamie, as a Catholic, ended up in purgatory after his death, because the violence on his records was high, and after he got out of there and the veil thinned down, he saw his chance and went to see the love of his life. Personally, we think it's the first fan theory that might end up being the true story behind this whole ghost mess, but of course with a bit of change and convention. And with this, it's time we say goodbye to Outlander until Season 7 arrives. Make sure you leave a comment in the comment section below. Also, don't forget to support us by liking our video and subscribing to our channel. We'll be back with more Outlander updates and news soon. Till next time, goodbye.